All of the things that I have spoken about consistently from the very beginning have been fundamentally based on science.
In that case, will you accept then, to clear the air once and for all, that you were part of a cover-up and that you did break the law?
If you are trying to, get at me as a public health official and a scientist, you're really attacking not only Dr. Anthony Fauci, you're attacking science. Science and the truth are being attacked.
My God, we got him. Shit.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and some wild news coming out of, some emails, apparently, that Mr. Saint Anthony, had commissioned, essentially, if I'm understanding this right, I might not be, a study to essentially disprove the theory that we all know is, at least according to several government agencies, exactly what happened. Dr. Anthony Fauci commissioned and edited the report he cited to disprove the leak theory. To disprove it, he paid for a study to, essentially back up what he wanted to say, and then used it. Like, this is absolutely insane. We're going to get into this after a super quick word from this video sponsor, Private Internet Access. Huge shout out to this video sponsor, Private Internet Access. Look, it's 2023. If you don't have a VPN, you're missing out on a ton of benefits. Not just a more secure connection, but if you're paying for Netflix, Disney Plus, or any other streaming service, you're already getting locked out of a ton of additional content that you could be enjoying if you used a VPN. And since they've been sponsoring the channel so long, they've rolled out a massive discount for my viewers. That's right, 84% off plus 4 months free. It's $2.03 a month, 4 months free, 84% off. Private Internet Access also offers privacy on all your devices, lightning fast global server network. And look, outside of all the additional content you're going to be able to view out there using Private Internet Access, it also has a strict no logs policy. It's open source. It has state-of-the-art updates. It's instant to set up. You can put it on all of your devices, your tablet, your computer, your mobile phones. It has unlimited bandwidth and so much more. If you don't have a VPN yet, make today the day. Use my link in the description to get Private Internet Access, start being more secure, and unlock loads more content. So, Dr. Anthony Fauci commissioned a February 2020 paper to disprove the possibility, of course, of the origination of the COOF, before then publicizing that very same study at a White House news conference weeks later. Newly released emails uncovered by House Republicans probing the lockdowns show the former head of National Institutes of Allergy and Infectious Diseases both commissioned and had final approval on a scientific paper in which it claimed it was improbable that it could have leaked out. I don't think anybody, I think improbable is probably it should be if they have all the safety precautions in place. This type of thing is supposed to be improbable, but that does not mean it didn't happen. Why were you commissioning these studies to back up what you wanted people to think? It was just a few weeks later that he stood next to then President Donald Trump at a press conference and cited that very paper as evidence that the idea was implausible without ever admitting that he commissioned it in the first place. I think that's ladies and gentlemen, we got a moment. Leave a like on this video if you can. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe down below. This is insanity. Many media outlets then started to dismiss the idea, only to later suggest that it was, in fact, possible as new evidence arose supporting the claim. And then in January, the Department of Energy and the FBI both concluded that it was likely a leak. The CIA is yet to declare a definitive position. The Bombshell emails released by the House Republicans on Sunday show that Fauci commissioned an edited paper entitled The Proximal proximal origin of the coup before he cited it as evidence that the coup did not originate there. It was written just 4 days after Fauci and his NIH boss, Francis Collins, held a call with the authors to discuss reports that the coup may have, in fact, leaked from a testing lab in Wuhan and may have been intentionally genetically manipulated. Now, remember the Pfizer whistleblower that we saw who was saying that, alleging that Pfizer was like mutating things so that they could then sell the American people the solution to any potential new mutations. The emails, Dr. Kristen Anderson admits that Fauci prompted him to write the paper with the goal of disproving the theory. Does that sound like science to you? This is insane. This is science TM. This is not follow this. This is the guy, Mr. Follow the Science, calling up people and saying, hey, I got this conclusion. I need you to fill in the gap and so I can use it. The paper was prompted by Jeremy Farrar and Anthony Fauci and Francis Collins. The letter sent by Scripps Research on his behalf insisted that Anderson objectively researched the origins of the coup and claimed that Fauci did not influence his work, but the report from House Republicans say, according to the previously released emails, the assertion is demonstrably false. It points to a February 8th, 2020 email in which the doctor said, our main work over the past couple of weeks has been focused on trying to disprove any type of leak theory. Why? Why is that what you were working on? Maybe you should have been figuring out that people needed vitamin D. Others also apparently worked to ensure the paper strongly dismissed the idea. Farrar, who was the then head of the British nonprofit, the Wellcome Trust, which has historic ties to the pharmaceutical industry, is now the chief scientist at, wait for it, this gets so good, the World Health Organization. They tried to then push through an edit replacing the word unlikely to improbable in a statement about the possibility of a potential leak. Under the changes, a sentence in the report read, it is improbable that it happened, but not unlikely. Still, even with the edits, Collins emailed Fauci expressing dismay that the proximal origin, which they saw prior to the publication and were given the opportunity to edit, did not squash the leak theory hypothesis, and asked if the NIH could do more to put down the lab leak. Why were they working so hard to get people to stop talking about this? You know, what's interesting to me as somebody who, had it several times, like at this point, it's out there. Everyone's getting it. It's out there, right? Maybe focus on handling that rather than running damage control for China. The next day, Dr. Fauci cited the proximal origin from the White House podium when asked if it had potentially leaked. He said at the time, there was a study recently where a group of highly qualified evolutionary virologists looked at the sequence and blah, blah, blah. So the paper will be available. Fauci continued, I don't have the authors right now, but we can make it available to you. You mean the paper that you paid for? The paper that you commissioned? I mean, this is a crime. Ted Cruz recently told the Conservative Political Action Conference, told the CPAC, that Fauci ought to be prosecuted for allegedly lying about origins. Speaking about the leak, he said, for 2 years, that was derided as a conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat wearing nutty theory, and you weren't even allowed to say it or you get banned on social media. The report comes just months after another bombshell Senate report found out that the coup was also the most likely result of a leak. GOP members of the Senate Committee of the Health Foundation, Labor and Pensions reviewed hundreds of studies on the origins over the past 15 months. Writing in the report, they conclude, quote, based on the analysis of the publicly available information, it appears reasonable to conclude that the coup was more likely than not the result of a research-related incident. Nearly 3 years after the pandemic began, critical evidence that would prove the emergence of the COOF was still missing. I mean, like, this is insane. The federal audit looked at taxpayer-funded research giants awarded to the now notorious EcoHealth Alliance, run by British scientist Peter Daszak. They found that National Institute of Health and EcoHealth failed to understand the nature of the research conducted, identify potential problem areas, and take corrective action. With improved oversight, NIH may have been able to take a more timely corrective actions to mitigate inherent risks associated with this type of research, the report added. Government auditors said 3 awards given by EcoHealth involved viruses with wide-scale potential. May 27, 2014, an award of $3.7 million to that very notorious lab in China was at the center of the leak theory. I mean, like, this is it. I mean, how is this guy not getting convicted? New emails show Dr. Fauci commissioned scientific paper in February 2020 to disprove it. He's like, hey, I don't need to know what's actually the case. This is antithetical to science. It's not about what is the case. He's literally saying, no, this is what we need to do. Disprove it. As if he knew, or as if somebody was worried about a bad reputational PR hit for China or something like that. The idea they didn't know the author, that he completely glossed over the fact that he asked for this thing to be created. Absolute criminal. Absolutely. And you know, now we're only just finding out. And just think about what it's going to be in like 10 years when we find out the real truth of everything. Make sure to leave a like on this video. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you again real soon.